always start with a drink. I think that's interesting. Also, we're being quiet because it's currently 4:30 in the morning and my roommates are asleep. Also, ignore the pile of laundry in the background. I tried to block it, but I move a lot, so you know the depression's real. I was just getting a thumbnail, don't worry. Hey guys, welcome back to the Hideaway. I know it's been another minute. I honestly can't get on board with consistency for some reason. But today we're going to be breaking down the last entry into the Hideaway entitled My Last Goodbye. I will be linking it up here so you guys can go take a listen to it and then come back and watch me break it down. So, this piece I wrote 2 years ago, and the idea I kind of had was there was this image floating around that I had really gravitated towards. It was basically it's a paper airplane, and this is what it looks like to turn a suicide note into a paper airplane, and that always struck with me. I'd mentioned it a couple times on this channel, but you know, my struggles with mental health and depression, those types of things. I have had moments in my life where I was suicidal, and you know, reading that quote is like, it shows like you need to get like the semicolon tattoo. It's like, you know, you can take this one bad moment and turn it into something better. When I wrote this piece 2 years ago, it wasn't actually a suicide note. It's written like a suicide note, but it's not. At least from my perspective, where I was mentally 2 years ago, it wasn't supposed to be a suicide note. Recently, in the past month or so, my mental health has not been the greatest, and I did get to a really low point. And I was rereading this piece, and for me, it was important to talk about it and bring it up, and maybe open a discussion with other people if they're struggling. But at least for myself, I haven't really talked about this that much, but like doing these videos, these breakdowns have been good for me, because it's kind of like, not to like negate therapy. Therapy is super important, especially if it works for you. Me breaking down like my pieces and like what they mean and what they represent, and then like editing it and watching it back, I'm like, it feels like a therapy session for me in a way. Like, it's very like relieving to an extent. And I had debated putting this piece up for a while because I didn't want to alarm anyone. But again, I thought it was important to get out there and talk about. So we're gonna break it down today. So trigger warning, obviously I didn't do one before that, but we're obviously talking about suicide, depression, mental health stuff. Sorry. So if you don't want to, don't listen to the breakdown, don't listen to the poem. I need to get better at trigger warnings, I'm very sorry. So again, originally this was written as a song that I just deconstructed to be a poem. So, let me see, my issue with myself is, I remember now. Big brain. So I'll go through the first verse, and then I'll kind of go over this little section that I took out of the poem because it's not that it didn't make sense, but I'll explain it when I get there. So let's go. I get really uncomfortable when I talk about my mental health because it's a lot to talk about, and that's all I can say on the matter. I'm stalling. Let's go. Please don't cry for me. Please just know I need some peace. So, the way I wanted it to be constructed is, I feel like, and it's different for everyone, the first time I attempted suicide, I left technically a note, but it wasn't like something like this. It wasn't like long written and it didn't address anyone. It was just kind of like goodbye, like a very short goodbye. So I've never really written like a lengthy one, but I feel like for me, if I were to write one, it would just get misconstrued. And I feel like that's how it is a lot of times when people explain why they're taking their lives. And I posted this when I, was promoting it on Instagram. And it was like, I want whoever's listening to this and reading this to just listen and not react to the words. And I know it's hard to do at first because when we talk about suicide, it's very taboo, it's very touchy. Some people don't talk about it. So these first 2 lines is like, please don't cry for me. Just know I need peace. And saying suicide was a form of peace for me at the time was what made sense with what I wanted to write about. And also, when you get into that mindset, sometimes that is, where you're at mentally. Is like the only way you will truly know peace is when it's all over and said and done, because then there's nothing. It's just, or at least whatever your depiction of, the afterlife is. I'm not religious. I don't know why I started to do that. So, circling back. Again, I'm just like, this is like begging the listener to just listen and like just take in the words that I'm saying. The hurting will go, soft shallows will ease the flow. So that's like, once I'm gone, time will, take away your wounds. Soft shallow, so I like the ocean imagery, but in my mind that was kind of like, the hurting will go. The hurting was like the storm and like the the hurricane, the tsunami causing all these big waves, but soon the soft shallows will come and make that transition and process easier. Remember the good, because it wasn't always so bad. So again, just like if you have any good memories of me, just remember those, because what I was going through wasn't the whole of who I was. A constellation of scars pain your heart and envelop your sorrows. And so that's just like the hurting will go, but you will still have the scars of losing me if you cared about me. And they'll always ache, and when you're feeling sad about me or just in general, like that might always haunt you, and not to be egotistical. But please don't cry for me. So again, I wanted to circle back to that first line, because I really think that's important for this piece. Is I just want you to listen. Like, yes, I know you're gonna cry, but like, no, don't cry for me. Like, this decision I made, yes, it would affect multiple people, but I did it ultimately for my own peace and sanity. And so there is, again, when it was a song, there was a little like pre-chorus that I wrote in there, again, just to drive home the point. Like, this wasn't supposed to be, like, when I wrote this, I wasn't going to kill myself. So I wrote in, this isn't my letter, this isn't a sign, because if I wanted to release this as a song or like a ballad or whatever, like however I wanted to do it, I just wanted people to know, like, this piece itself wasn't me saying I'm leaving. Like, this is just where I've been in my life. This is how I felt in these dark times. And so for me, it was important to have that there, just to be like, no, like, you need to listen. I'm not going, but this is just how I feel and where I was at. But I took it out of the poem itself because I showed it to a friend a bit ago, and when they were reading it, they were like, I hate this. And I was like, why? They're like, could you keep saying this isn't my letter, this isn't a sign, when it is? And I was just like, I didn't want it to get misconstrued, or I didn't want the message to get lost. So I just took it out. I used that little blurb as like part of a caption for the promos on Instagram because it is important, but not to like the poem version of this. So, little brief explanation for that. So, the next section is actually the second verse of the song. It's not enough to want to stay. It's not enough to lead everyone astray. So there I'm just kind of like, people always tell you that suicide is wrong because of everything you're leaving behind, and wanting to stay for other people isn't the answer. You have to want to stay for yourself. And also, just wanting it isn't enough, as I said. And then leading everyone astray. Like if I go on like put on like a bright face or a happy face, like I'm just like tricking everyone to thinking I'm fine when really I'm suffering. So I'm lying to everyone around me. Whereas like this act would be like my ultimate form of truth. Your smile will grow. It's time to get on with the show. My role is coming to an end. So again, kind of back to that first section. You know, you will learn to laugh and smile again. And then, you know, I like my theater metaphors. So the curtain, the curtains are coming down on me, and it's just my role. It's not the show's ending. So I'll go back on that line. It's time to get on with the show, so the curtains aren't closing, but my role is coming to end. So, like, you know, shows will continue on after characters have gone. So it's not the end of everything, it's just the end of me. Send me off with a bang. I was reckless and foolish. I loved, oh, so ferocious. And so, for me, like, send me off with a bang is like more like an inside thing with me, because I always tell my friends that when I die, I want to be cremated and my ashes mixed in with fireworks. So, send me off with a bang. And then, you know, I was reckless and foolish. I feel like a lot of people feel that way, but not enough to want to, you know, end their lives. But I think using these types of words that aren't like so morbid and grim, again, helping ease the transition of understanding why I'm in this mindset or why I was in that mindset. But my heart is burdened by life. And so that's kind of like the catalyst of it all, is that like, yes, I had all these things, and like, you know, I loved a lot, and like, sure, I was reckless and foolish, but it was exciting. But now it's like, there's so much on my heart and soul just being weighed down. So the last line, so just know needing to stay isn't enough. So again, we're starting off the sections with like these statements and then explaining them and then being like driving the point home. Don't cry for me. You know that I wanted to stay, but that wasn't enough, because it couldn't be enough. All right. So the third section would have been the bridge. So we'll get into that. If it makes it better to say you'll see me again, hold on to that. If it makes it better to say you hate my guts, hold on to that. So again, like I'm explaining to the listener, like whatever you need to cope with me to doing this to myself, just hold on to that, because I'm trying to think. I feel like when I say those two sections, it's like, whether it's good or bad, you can hold on to that part because it will remind you of me. And it's not me physically here with you, but you at least have an emotion or something still rooted in me. And once I'm gone, if I'm gone, that will hopefully be enough to just keep you going. My life is mine. I'm sorry that I shared it. And so that kind of takes on more of like the selfish aspect of suicide. And I say the selfish aspect, everyone thinks that, you know, suicide in and of itself is selfish, but think it depends on who you ask, and you know, a lot of times the circumstances are worse than the reality. So when I say I'm sorry that I shared it, it's again, I'm apologizing for the burden that I am giving to people when this action is completed. My purpose here was merely a coincidence. So again, that kind of touches with a little existentialism, because, you know, I struggle sometimes with like why I'm here and like, do I have a purpose? Is there a higher power? I don't believe in God, but is there something controlling me? But you know, when you are in these dark places and you get in that mindset, you're like, there's nothing for me. If I touched your soul, if I broke your heart, if I meant more to you than I did to myself. So again, I'm like trying to make reprimands for all the people that I've, you know, interact with in my life and have connections with and meanings with. And that last part, if I meant more to you than I did to myself, that really is another one of those driving points where it's like, and to an extent, I feel like sometimes I'm living for other people instead of myself. And obviously that means that people do care about me, but it's not enough if I don't care about myself in that same way. And then the last line of the section is, please just know. And then it's supposed to go straight into the last section, which would have been the chorus. But when I say my last goodbye, I won't look you in the eyes because it will hurt you before it hurts me. And so I feel that line again is important, especially to the that little pre-chorus I mentioned earlier. Because like when I write something like this, and if I'm putting it out there, like that's not my letter, and like I always said that when I was going to kill myself, like no one would know, like I would just disappear one day, and that would be it. So yeah, my last goodbye is not this. It's not a letter. It's not a public declaration. I know some people do that, and that's how people handle their coping and their processing, but that's not what I want to do if I were to ever go through with this. So I'm still here, still kicking. Because it will hurt you before it hurts me, but I don't mean to cause more grief. So again, tying back to, if I were to tell people I was going to commit suicide, they would be distraught. They'd like come and try to help, and like it's just too much drama. I'm a burden that no one should keep. So again, I feel worthless and like all these things. My last goodbye is as silent as the sky. So again, I would be alone when I do it. No one would know. I would just disappear, and it would be as if, you know, life continued on, and that, you know, famous saying, if a tree falls in the forest, no one is around to hear it, does it make a sound? And that's how I would go, a tree in the forest, because I am very tall. Look up to find me. I am happy to be at peace. Please be happy when I say my last goodbye. And so again, we're really trying to drive from that point that like, if I, in the mindset that I'm in, if I do this action, it's because I need to be at peace. I need to, you know, it's tough because when I wrote this, it had been, I think, 2.5 years since my last suicide attempt, and then 2 years later, I was back in that place. So I'm like, I'm not going to kill myself. I told you this isn't a letter, this isn't my sign. But what I wanted this piece to say was that like, when it happens, when I finally say goodbye, like I just know it's what was right for me, because I'm only gonna do it when life is truly, you know, I'm at my wit's end with it. So I'm gonna go ahead and end this video because that's the end of the poem, and I have a lot to think about when I edit this. And if you guys are struggling, or if you guys have any questions, please reach out to me in the comments. Instagram is linked below if you wanted to send me private messages. You know, I wrote this piece in not a dark place. And again, I think, you know, trying to release it now, especially, you know, in the times that we're in, especially what I was going through, you know, people say it over and over again. It's important to just talk about it and, you know, let your feelings out. And, you know, hopefully it'll get better one day. I can't promise that it'll get better because I don't know. But you're not alone on this journey in life. I'm not alone on this journey in life. So thank you for listening. I don't know when the next piece will be out. It hopefully won't be as sad or depressing or morbid as this one. But I look forward to talking to you guys soon. Take care.